Daniel found the library card in his deceased father's wallet, tucked behind a photo of his mother. It was old, laminated in that yellowing plastic from the 1980s, and issued to someone named James Cooper, not his father's name. His father had been Robert Chen, a quiet accountant who'd lived a predictable life in suburban Connecticut. He'd never mentioned anyone named James Cooper. Daniel turned the card over. On the back, written in faded blue ink, was an address: Sterling Archives, 447 Beacon Street. A quick search revealed nothing. No Sterling Archives in any database, no 447 Beacon Street in any nearby city. But something about the card nagged at him. His father had kept it for decades, protected it like something precious. 2 weeks after the funeral, Daniel drove to Boston. Beacon Street was real enough, lined with brownstones and small businesses, but the numbers jumped from 445 to 449, with just a narrow alley between them. Daniel parked and walked down the alley. Halfway through, almost invisible unless you were looking for it, was a door. The number 447 was carved into the stone above it, nearly worn away by time. No sign, no indication of what lay inside. He tried the handle. Locked. Then, on impulse, he held up the library card. A soft click echoed through the alley, and the door swung open. Inside was a library unlike any Daniel had ever seen. The space defied the narrow alley's dimensions. It stretched upward and outward impossibly, shelf after shelf rising into shadows the ceiling lights couldn't reach. The air smelled of old paper and possibility. "Good evening," said a voice. An elderly woman emerged from between the stacks, her eyes sharp behind half-moon glasses. "We don't often get legacy cards. You must be Robert's son." Daniel's mouth went dry. "You knew my father?" "James, yes. That's what he went by here. Everyone chooses their own name at Sterling Archives." She gestured for him to follow. "I'm Mrs. Reeves, the head librarian. Your father was one of our most dedicated patrons." "I don't understand. My father never talked about this place. What kind of library is this?" Mrs. Reeves smiled. "The kind that lends out experiences instead of books." She led him to a reading room where several people sat in comfortable chairs, their eyes closed, expressions ranging from joy to wonder to quiet tears. They didn't move, barely seemed to breathe. Yet Daniel could sense something happening behind their closed eyelids. "Every volume in Sterling Archives contains a lived experience," Mrs. Reeves explained. "A memory donated by someone who wanted to share it. A first kiss, a perfect summer day, the birth of a child, a moment of triumph. When you check out a volume, you live that memory as if it were your own. You feel everything they felt." Daniel stared. "That's impossible. So is a library hidden in an alley that doesn't exist on any map, yet here we are." She pulled a leather-bound ledger from a desk. "Your father discovered us 43 years ago, quite by accident. He was our most frequent visitor. Let me show you his history." She opened the ledger to a page marked James Cooper. Hundreds of entries, dates stretching back to 1981. Daniel scanned the titles: Climbing Everest at Dawn, A Perfect Game of Chess, Dancing at the Grand Ball, Flying a Biplane Over the English Countryside. "My father was afraid of heights," Daniel whispered. "He never traveled. He lived the same routine every day for as long as I can remember." "In his daily life, yes. But here?" Mrs. Reeves smiled gently. "Here, he was an adventurer. He lived 1,000 lives, felt 1,000 joys. Some people criticized him for it, said he was escaping, but I think he understood something important, that one lifetime is too short for all the wonder the world contains." Daniel felt tears burning his eyes. He'd always thought his father was content with his quiet life, maybe even disappointed by its smallness. But this... Why didn't he tell me? Perhaps he thought you wouldn't understand. Perhaps he wanted you to live your own adventures, not just experience borrowed ones. Or perhaps She pulled out a slim volume from behind the desk. Perhaps he was saving something for you. The cover read, "For Daniel, a father's love." Below it, a date from just 3 months ago. "He donated this memory before he got sick," Mrs. Reeves said softly. "Said his son would find his way here when the time was right. Would you like to check it out?" Daniel's hands shook as he took the book. "What's in it?" "That's between you and your father. You have 1 week with it, then it returns to the shelves. Others may check it out after you, experience what he wanted to share. That's how Sterling Archives works. Memories become immortal, passed from person to person, lived again and again." Daniel clutched the book to his chest. Can I donate memories too? Once you've experienced what your father left you, if you wish to apply for a card of your own, we'd be honored. Choose your library name carefully." She smiled. "James Cooper suited your father. He said it sounded like someone brave." That evening, in a quiet corner of the reading room, Daniel opened his father's book. He closed his eyes, and suddenly he was seeing through different eyes, feeling with a different heart. He was his father, holding a newborn baby, holding Daniel for the first time. The overwhelming love, the fierce protectiveness, the absolute terror of being responsible for something so precious and fragile. The promise whispered in the hospital's quiet darkness, "I'll give you everything I can. I'll work every day. I'll make sure you're safe. And when you're ready, I'll make sure you know life is bigger than bills and routines and fear. Life is for living in whatever way you can." The memory continued. Snapshots of love, teaching Daniel to ride a bike while his heart hammered with worry, watching him sleep and feeling grateful, sitting in the audience at his college graduation bursting with pride. And then the final memory, his father, already sick, sitting in this very reading room recording this moment, thinking of Daniel, hoping that his son would find this place, this magic, this permission to dream. "I lived carefully," his father's thoughts echoed. "So you wouldn't have to. I lived wildly here, in these borrowed moments, so I could teach you that life has many dimensions. I love you, Daniel. Now go live. Live everything. Be brave enough for both of us." When Daniel opened his eyes, Mrs. Reeves was waiting with a handkerchief and a cup of tea. "I'd like to apply for a card," he said, his voice steady despite the tears. "What name would you like?" Daniel thought of his father, the secret adventurer. He thought of all the lives he'd never lived, all the experiences waiting on these impossible shelves. "Just Daniel," he said. "I want to be myself. I think that's what he wanted to teach me. You don't need to be someone else to have adventures. You just need to be brave enough to seek them." Mrs. Reeves nodded approvingly. "Welcome to Sterling Archives, Daniel. The experiences of 1,000 lifetimes await you." As Daniel left that night, his new library card safely in his wallet next to his father's, he noticed something he'd missed before. Each person who passed him in the stacks wore the same expression, the look of someone who just remembered that life, in all its infinite variety, was still full of wonder, and for the first time since his father's death, Daniel smiled.